Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us in the SOS-radio.com podcast. My name is Jason Knight, President, Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies, and your host into the unknown. I'm joined today by my fellow SOSers, my co-host, Dave Black, Supernatural Occurrence Studies founder, co-founder, medium, theorist, comedian. Dave, say hello.
Hi.
He said hello.
Hello.
There you go.
I'm also joined by Joe Erie, SOS theorist and medium, musician, and all-around good guy. Hi, Joe.
Hello, Jay.
I don't think he's that
And
good
world.
of a guy.
He's an excellent guy. And last but not least,
He's all right.
He's got some great references.
7 out of 10.
our producer extraordinaire, a one-of-a-kind guy, Mr. Oscar Spector.
One of a kind. I don't know what that means. Hello.
Good evening.
Yes. Evening. Yes.
So on this episode of the SOS-radio.com podcast, we're going to continue delving into who we are. We realize we're still new to you guys. We're still new to the podcasting experience, frankly. And we want to continue introducing you to us and to some of our theories, outlooks, beliefs, what really makes us a unique organization, and why we feel we have the street cred to do this podcast. We've been, as we mentioned in previous episodes, we've been doing this collectively for nearly 20 years. So I could say we've legitimately earned our chops. So in this episode, we're going to continue talking about some of our theories and why we do what we do. And one thing I noticed, guys, when I was listening back on the intro podcast we did, the podcast where we introduced supernatural occurrence studies to the world once again, the podcast, us as individuals.
At least through radio, through the airwaves.
Through the airways,
Yeah.
through timed...
Time-release radio.
Time-release radio. I
like
love
a grenade
that.
where you pull the pin.
That's why he's our producer. I love time-release radio. During that podcast, going back and re-listening to it, I noticed that all of us collectively learned to appreciate the paranormal from a very young age, as children. We didn't learn to appreciate the paranormal 2 years ago after watching the Insidious movies.
Or
This
Sinister.
was something...
Remember when The Craft came out and then every girl was a witch?
A Wiccan.
From
Yeah,
then on?
they
Did that really happen?
We didn't
Yeah.
learn to enjoy this stuff just a little while. This was some deep-rooted, intuitive thing since a very young age for all four of us. And there's got to be a reason why. Why are children such paranormal receptors? I can get into some stories just with my own kids, some really creepy stuff that they've done and said. Most recently, late August 2015, when my daughter came to me and talked about my Mr. Lincoln, how she saw him sitting on her bed and scared her. Things we've had happen after people who were very close to us were passed away, died, murdered, and how our kids, my kids, reacted very intuitively to that event, and I believe saw these people at our own home. Why is that? Why do kids seem to be such paranormal receptors? Why did we, as SOS, learn to love this stuff? Why were we indoctrinated into this stuff since a very young age?
Right. Well, the
What gives
jokey
it-
answer, right, would be that no one believes kids, right?
Right.
Not like flat out, but, yeah, I saw a dragon, Mommy. Really? No, obviously not. They imagined a dragon. Likewise, something that might have been real / supernatural at the same time. Yeah, people would find that more unbelievable.
Okay.
Yeah, kids, possibly, they're just a little bit more open-minded. They don't ever put up that barrier, blocking everything
Yeah,
out.
you see that too.
And I
There's
think
the whole,
that's the key, the barriers.
There's the whole theory that our reality is what we make of it. That, I've talked about like light waves, how you can only see certain waves of light. You can only hear certain spectrums of sound. And it might be true of various other things that exist all around us all the time that we are filtering out or we can't receive or understand. And I believe that children don't have those. If you think about religion, for instance, most people don't come to a religion. They don't. There's the exception to the rule, but most people that believe in a religion believe that way because that's how they were raised. They were taught to believe that. Most mainstream religions that exist, and even non-mainstream ones, if you were to just pull a person out of a jungle somewhere that had never heard of it before and said, hey, this is the thing that's going on, like there's this guy in the sky and he made men out of mud and then made women out of the dirt man's rib, and that's how humanity got here, and then the woman ate an apple off a tree that a magic snake told her to eat, they'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? You sound like a crazy person.
Right.
And
what's an apple?
And the thing is that people will grow into these beliefs and believe them wholeheartedly because that's what they were taught. It's just like nobody is born racist. You're taught to be racist. So there's these people that grow, like a terrorist is taught to hate other people and taught that you need to fight against people who are not like you. And children can be very like that. Your mind is literally shaped when you're a child. So if you grew up in like a hippie commune where everyone was like all lovey-dovey and open and stuff, you're probably going to be that person when you grow up. And you're going to be a lot more open and receptive to supernatural things or, new age type stuff and meditation and yoga and all that kind of stuff. And some people might look at you like you're crazy, but it's no crazier than, believing in, Judaism or Islam or whatever other Scientology or whatever other things people grow up and believe in. I mean, you look at a cult, and people can be manipulated into anything, really. And when you're a child, when you're a kid, your mind's kind of an open palette, open slate, and
fresh Play-Doh.
Yeah,
right. And I think that ties into Joe. You were saying about blocks. There being no blocks in your mind when you're a child.
Basically,
expand on that.
There's no barrier saying no, this isn't real, because at a certain point, as you start, just aging, getting older, getting in, to like just whatever school or just society. I mean, you're force fed to believe that you believe in ghosts. There's nothing that's real. Ghosts aren't real.
It's like I was just saying before we got on here. You teach kids that Santa Claus is real and there's this man watching over them and knows what they're doing at all times, and if you're bad, he's going to know and he's going to punish you. If you're good, he's going to know, he's going to reward you and give you presents. And then when that child is like approaching the age where they shouldn't believe that anymore, you sit them down and be like, hey, all that stuff we told you about Santa Claus watching at all times, it's not real. We just made that up. We just told you a lie to keep you in line and make sure you behaved yourself and thought you were being watched at all times. But Jesus is real. Keep on believing in him, and if you're good all your life, you're going to go up to heaven and hang out with him. If you're bad, you're going to go to hell. Just don't compare or think about it. Just take what we say as gospel and
go with the flow.
Go about that for the rest of your life, believing that. And if from a layman's point of view, it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. It's and to get adult human beings to believe that kind of stuff shows how malleable the human mind really is. And like you said, like a fresh lump of Play-Doh, and if you get somebody at the right age, you can
indoctrinate them to whatever you choose.
And my reason for that, for believing that they have no barriers, or what do you call them, blocks, is the simple fact that they have no filters and they're brutally honest. Kids can be like, Dad, you look gross today. Dad, I can see your pores, or whatever the hell.
My daughter asked me, why do I have boobs? I thought I was going to jump off a building that day.
But there's no barrier.
Exactly. So the common sense logic would be that they would also have no barrier for what is out there beyond what we can see with our adult eyes.
They see what is.
Yes.
Those blocks haven't been put up yet.
Until
whether it is religion, whether it is politics, whether it is ghosts are silly, don't believe in it. When they're that young, those blocks aren't up yet.
Yeah, there's no barrier until
they see it so often they accept it.
That's why there's so many kids with imaginary friends,
Yes.
And you hear all kinds of creepy stories surrounding that.
Yeah.
Yeah, until they're told, no, ghosts aren't real. You're crazy.
Or they see it so often they become desensitized to
part of
it.
my
everyday mundane.
They want to fit into society.
They stop seeing it.
Part of my whole theory
they don't want to
is
seem crazy.
Part of my whole theory is that the whole concept of linear time of things existing the way that we see them is kind of false. That time is not
Slaughterhouse
as
5.
time is not as set in stone as we think it is. That's just kind of the reality that we've chosen
You
to
ever read
believe
that
in.
book?
What's that?
Slaughterhouse 5.
Kurt
I have
Vonnegut.
not.
Yeah. The way he describes time in that one, it shatters it completely. The way we think normally nowadays, like a calendar, it ain't like a
Yeah.
calendar. It's something else. And it's I can't describe it. I can't do Kurt Vonnegut justice, but it's a good one to read if you want to think about time and how it works.
And that's the thing is, when children say they have, like you hear stories all the time of a little kid having an imaginary friend or whatever, and then when they finally describe this imaginary friend that matches the description of somebody that passed away, or a person that used to live in the house, or whatever it is, and you think to yourself like, wow, that's really creepy and weird and strange, but is it possible that that kid isn't talking to a ghost? It isn't talking to a spirit, but it's literally kind of talking through a window in time. It's actually maybe even in a dream state or something. Like it's kind of hard to explain, but
I get you. No, I'm with
almost like imagine a porthole opens
Yeah.
up in front of you, and you can see somebody sitting in your room that was sitting in your room 20 years ago, and have a conversation with them like you're sitting right next to each other.
That is deep. That is far
No,
out
yeah.
there, but that
Otherwise,
is really
also,
interesting.
like as a child, as your mind's growing, developing, maybe eventually sometimes it just shuts off for some people.
I think that's a good point. I think a lot of it has to do with desensitization. Think about the first time you saw someone in a movie get their freaking head cut off. It was just, it was, oh my God, this is insane. You have nightmares. It's just visceral. It's real for all intents and purposes. And I can remember my very first horror film. Everything that
Really?
happened, it was that shocking to me. But as we grow older and we see those type of movies day in and day out, we see it on the evening news,
Day in.
especially today. Mass
Hell,
suicides.
in other countries, they
mass
show that more
murders.
graphically, too.
Yeah, I mean, just what goes on in the Amazon jungles. I mean, they report on this daily. We become desensitized to it. Now we find ourselves rooting for that villain, hoping that young, beautiful co-ed with big tits gets killed in the worst way. We stop seeing it. It's not impactful to us. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect us. I think the same thing has to do with this child theory. They see it for what it is so often that it just becomes mundane, and once things become mundane, they become forgotten.
The perfect example of what you're talking about is gun violence in America. We've gotten to the point now where a guy walks into a school and kills 26 people, and we're just like,
What did
nothing.
what did the Bears do today?
Yeah, nothing we can do about it. Whatever. We'll be sad for a week and then go back to waiting for the next one to happen.
Horrible. Yes.
And then, when something like Ebola or refugees, everyone's like, oh my God, Ebola's going to kill all of us. These refugees are all terrorists. They're going to kill all of
But
us.
how long did that last? That lasted for about 28 days.
Yeah.
It was gone.
And then you're like, well, what about since the Ebola thing started 2 weeks ago, what about the 4,000 people that died by gun violence in this country? You think maybe we should do something about that? No, we can't do anything about it. But this Ebola, we got to keep everyone from the Western Hemisphere needs to stay out, and we can't have anyone here because Ebola's going to get us all, and the terrorists are going to get us all, and everything. And you just point out to people like dogs kill more people than terrorists every year in this country. Should we do something about dogs? No, we shouldn't do anything about dogs.
So you're saying that's something about desensitization or...
Yeah, because if you look at it, whenever a new threat shows up, no matter how ridiculous and minuscule it is of a threat, people freak the hell out about
topical
it.
as that is. By the way, damn, every major news point in the world you got there in one sentence.
But you think about that.
But you also think of child soldiers in African countries. They get used to killing and taking drugs before a kill.
It's just like the gangbanger kids on the south side of Chicago,
They get used to dressing a certain way to make sure that they're never seen again in a certain way or light, or they can hide, or whatever the case.
But are we at the end of the day equating paranormal experiences to mass slaughter? No.
Yes, I am. No,
we're not. We're
what
talking
Dave's
about
saying.
desensitization.
Well, like another thing too. That
if something
could be
happens enough,
possible-
people don't care. But if it's
Right.
something, if it's something new, if it's something different, it could be completely outlandish, and one person could be hit by there could be a meteor shower and one person is killed by a meteor, and that would be the next big thing everyone would be terrified of, is like, oh my god, there's going to be a meteor that kills me.
Whoa, question. Can you guys imagine a world where anything, I don't know what this is specifically, where something happens where what we're talking about, supernatural stuff, not gun violence, is brought to light that makes people have this as a new thing, the meteor shower you're describing, the version of that, where the whole world is gaining something from that, or a part of it, or whatever. Like, can you see an event, something, where the 1 in 1 millionth person gets the right thing, and it's true or whatever, and it gets people all riled up for it? And you guys see something like that happening?
In the paranormal field?
Yes.
I don't think
They would literally have to capture and contain and
I'm saying, can you see it?
and be able to
the
conduct
thing is that
experiments on this
people can
energy.
watch a video of like a cop shooting a guy in the back 8 times and still be like, oh, that guy deserved it. That guy was going to attack the cop. Like, people can see a video, like actually see physical evidence.
So you're saying that disbelief will just override anything?
Yeah, they can, like anyone.
I mean, their belief of disbelief.
The way that we are in this country now, we are so polarized that even presented with actual factual evidence will not change anybody's mind.
Okay. So you don't think it's
And you know
possible?
what? I will say this. I don't have a problem talking about this kind of stuff and putting my views out there on this show, because I know that closed-minded people that would be really upset with me for saying some of the things I say aren't going to listen to a show like this because they're not open-minded.
For being like desensitized and all that, I understand, the point Dave's making. Being like another, out there thing could be maybe not all kids do have that, I mean, maybe this is just a few select. Maybe some of us were, the lucky or unlucky
I mean, even if
ones
it's like
to have it.
15%, which is still
It would be
most
interesting
kids.
to look at kids from around the world to see what the differences are as far as paranormal experiences go.
Also
Like,
where they are.
Possibly,
They're all
if they had like a near-death experience as a child.
Well, I'm just talking
if
about
they had something happen. I mean,
I'm just talking about like Christian countries, Jewish countries, Hindu countries, Buddhist countries. Like, if
A different perspective,
if
yeah.
like, because Buddhist upbringing is probably a lot more enlightened and open than any other religion.
Okay,
So I wonder
yeah, I
if
understand
kids
what
from
you're saying.
that background would experience more paranormal stuff. Not only because
it's more accepted.
not
in
only
that
because
culture.
it's more accepted and
It's just
they're more
nurtured if they say
open-minded,
it.
but maybe even genetically that bloodline is more open to it.
Well, I mean, we can even get
That's
into
interesting.
a lot of people, sometimes say people with psychic abilities could be part hybrid alien. I mean, there's so many theories.
That's getting into a
on-
little bit crazy town.
Exactly.
The old Dr.
for
Sleep.
another episode.
Yeah.
That we're definitely going to be covering extra.
But I mean, yeah, we can go on and on about,
Well, I'll tell you right now, my 2.5-year-old son, he started this about a month ago. He
Smiling? 'Cause he smiles a lot.
insists. He does smile a lot. He's great. He insists that if we're feeding him, sometimes he gets stubborn and he won't eat unless you feed him. You have to give a spoonful to what he calls the ghost, and he'll point to an empty corner of the room, say "feed ghost," and you have to hold up his spoon. You have to say, "Okay, here, Mr. Ghost," and wait a couple seconds, and then give it to my son, and then he'll eat.
But what
We don't talk about ghosts to my
don't
son.
you show
He don't
him
know-
Nightmare Before Christmas? Could
No,
that be
no? He likes Spider-Man. He likes Spider-Man and
Well, Carnage is totally his ghost.
little the other.
well,
silly
Dave,
shows.
did you have anybody in your family?
But we don't talk
that
to him
was
about
sensitive?
ghosts.
Not really. My mother's side of the family is all Russian Jewish. My father was adopted, so I don't really know what the lineage is on that side of the
Has there
family.
ever been a curiosity point to figure that
Well,
out?
according to my grandmother, before she passed away, his mother was 17 years old when she had him.
Mm-hmm.
His father died in World War II. My father was born in 1944. So she gave him up for adoption. My grandmother adopted him at the age of 45 because she couldn't have kids. So the only thing I know is that my, I guess my real grandmother was Czechoslovakian or something like that. And apparently my father actually tracked down his real mother, but never actually made. Like, he called once and heard her voice.
Oh, really? Okay.
And said he had the wrong number, and he never really met her before she passed away. But he claims to have several siblings and cousins and stuff around that
but
he knows
known
of.
psychic.
Not that I know.
How does
of.
that come up, right? In that first contact?
Yeah.
I could tell you for.
But he hasn't actually hasn't actually talked to them or mentioned the fact of who he is. And they're all elderly now too, so he wouldn't want to have somebody have a heart attack or whatever.
Yeah.
It was something I was kind of getting at. I know a few members of my family, have that, and kind of goes through generation. But what I was going to bring up, Jay, your mom has that ability too.
I know for a fact the women, the Eastern European women on my mom's side, from great grandmother all the way down to my mom, including aunts, my Auntie Jo. Everyone here, I think, met Auntie Jo at one point. They all have that ability, and it's strong. And I remember when my daughter was born, my mom said to me, watch her, she's going to have what our women have, And she has had a number of experiences throughout her short life, her 7.5 years, that confirm for us that she's got this touch that the Eastern European women in my family, Ukrainian.
Have you ever tried to culture or nurture that in her?
No.
Have you ever done card games, tell me the suit, tell me the...
No, my mom and I have done that with uncanny results. I mean, just ridiculously accurate results. Pulling cards. What card is this? What card am I holding? Nailing it every single time. Matter of fact, my mom insists that when I was very young, like my daughter's age and a little bit younger, I had it too. But it went away because I don't really feel anything except for my little plague that I suffer, this Mr. Lincoln character. Other than that, you guys know, I don't feel anything. I don't feel shit when we go into these locations.
But you're also Catholic.
I am Catholic.
It could also pass to your kids,
Right. So now I'm wondering if
times...
my son has the same thing with this whole ghost, feed the ghost, pointing to an empty corner. He's not pointing to a person. He knows to point to a seemingly empty spot of the house or the room.
Here's an experiment for you.
Strange.
Raise one of your children Catholic and the other one agnostic.
Well, and that's the whole Catholic thing is really, it's curious for me because growing up, I'm from Bridgeport in the south side of Chicago, heavy Italian Catholic. Moved to the north side, still kept up with Catholicism, went to a Catholic high school. For me, religion told me when you died, you either went to heaven or hell, or you hung around with your body waiting for the coming of Christ, right? That was your purgatory, the waiting.
Yeah.
When we started going out and investigating this stuff and getting the results on audio, on photograph, in video, these results made me question, well, wait a minute, Catholic dogma tells me that I either go up or down and I stay with my body if I'm not bad enough for hell, too bad for heaven, you hung out in purgatory waiting for the coming of Christ to be judged, right? What the hell is this stuff we're photographing, interacting with, oftentimes seeming to have an intelligence about it? It made me question everything. But it also tells me, okay, maybe the Catholics might have a little bit of it wrong, but if this is here, there has to be that. If there's these ghosts and trace energy, to use our term, that we're interacting with and photographing, then there has to be something else.
But the thing is,
so to me, it came back.
The thing is, we still don't know if that's even human in origin.
We don't. You're right. It's probable. I think we could all agree that it's probable, but proven beyond a doubt, no, definitely not proven beyond a doubt.
I think it has a relationship with humans, but doesn't necessarily mean it's human.
So let's experiment with that.
Like, for instance, is a remora, the little sucky fish that hang onto the side of sharks, are they a shark? Or do they just hang around sharks? Maybe this stuff is a remora to humans. It just hangs around.
Well, maybe we're their remoras. No, I'm kidding there. That's a joke.
Perhaps.
Good try.
I live in my own reality. It's funny because I don't see the religion angle. I mean, you know me, I'm not religious. Agnostic, I don't like labels, but whatever, let's just say that. And the only reason because of that is because of what you guys have shown me. Or because of what I've heard people tell me that I know to believe they're not liars. Why would they exaggerate about this? Sometimes they do exaggerate, but I know the difference. I think none of my family have it, as far as I know. None of them have told me. But it's funny because I think every single family member has no doubt of its existence, even if they have no experiences themselves, or have very little, or they have passed down knowledge instead of what we're doing here, or what you guys have done with woods and bars and locations. So it's weird. It's like we're in between. It's like we know cops exist and they catch robbers and killers, but we've never been a cop ourselves. We just know they exist out there. So I don't know. That's not a good example. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm coming from a weird angle where I just I don't think it's anything about if this exists, then this also exists. I just know that. Yeah, like he was saying, like we don't know shit still.
Yeah, for me, it's like if this exists, I don't know what the hell else exists.
God, can you imagine? This is probably like the entity of all the crazy entities we don't know about. That's just the showiest, and God knows what the stuff that isn't showing itself out there.
Right.
Like, yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, who knows what the pictures can't reveal or what the audio can't reveal.
Right.
I kind of was the same way with Jay. Once I started experiencing and getting pictures, that kind of made me believe that, well, if this is here, then there has to be something else. But also, too, as Dave's saying, okay, well, what if it is something else? It does leave a question. Something I do know with these energies is it drains me. I get really tired.
Yeah, I used to get like that too. It's like when you go to like an amusement park all day and ride on the roller coasters, and you get that, like, you're not necessarily doing a lot of walking and stuff, but it's like just that adrenaline rush kind of drains you.
Yeah.
So you just want to take a nap.
Is it sapping your adrenaline?
I'm sure our listeners.
It pulls energy out of you.
I don't even know if it pulls energy out of you.
It feeds
fuel.
off of that energy
feeds.
in some instances.
Yeah, I definitely feel like whatever it is working on the same wavelength as human electrochemical energy, or is made up of it, but in some way is related to it in a way.
And it knows if you know. It knows, if you fear. It's ultra sensitive.
I feel like
that's great, Joe, because we have done tours before. One of them I can think of right at the top of my head was to Bachelor Grove Cemetery. When we brought a tour there, we had these bros, these jock guys,
Brox,
acting a fool, and all of a sudden, that energy pinpointed them, and you just saw the physiological reaction, intense fear, paranoia, get me out of here. And everyone else is like, what are you talking about? It's like this energy picked up on that. It knew there was something different going on with these people, opposed to everyone else in the group. Focus on them, zero in on them, and they reacted. Dave, you know what I'm talking
about.
I've
done like anger trials.
It's happened between me and you,
where I'm like, come and get me, and I scream and I'll jump up on stuff and I'll be like, come and get me, and photographs of me reveal that it's all around me and I can feel it.
Yep.
So I feel like when you're, think of it like the predator looking at a victim in a tree, out of a tree and
that
stuff.
Infrared kind of
weird. And somebody that is, for all intents and purposes, if it sees somebody with a weapon, it's going to go after that person because it wants to be, fair or whatever, or sporting.
A warrior. Yeah.
And I feel like there's some people that don't have a weapon and some people that do have a weapon, and some people that reveal a weapon once they get there, in the sense of becoming agitated or anxious or whatever it is, where it's kind of like when you're sitting around a campfire telling stories, and then the hair stands up on the back of your neck. I feel like that is that's the point where it plugs into you, almost like the Matrix, if you will, because the back of your neck is kind of like, if you were to like plug into the human brain, that's where you would have to do it. That's where like the brainstem that controls everything in your body, that's where all the signals from your brain have to flow. And whenever I feel I'm getting, surrounded by something,
it's
it
my
always
back of my gut.
it starts at the back of your neck, like
Let's segue right now to that. I'm sure people listening to this podcast, having already designated Dave and Joe as the medium, the people of the group that have these mediumship abilities, people are going to want to know, what does it feel like when you are in the thick of a paranormal experience? What do you experience?
This is what I'm going to explain, and this goes along with one of my theories. But when you're experiencing trace energy, when you're getting touched by it, or having contact with you, we'll say, because it always comes to you. Like, I think that it will move away from certain people and it will come to certain people. But when I feel it, it starts at the back of your head. You start feeling the tingling on the back of your neck, just like you're probably feeling when we tell us a creepy story and you're sitting in the dark listening to this. And you get
might be having that happen to you right now.
It starts at the back of your neck. It flushes through the sides of your face, your temples, and then it kind of flushes through your face, and then it kind of travels down your spine, and kind of gives you that chill that a lot of people...
Eyes start watering.
Yeah, eyes start watering and stuff. And I feel like one of the reasons why people experience entities or audible things, and the most common thing that I've experienced, that I can say without a doubt that I've experienced, is emotional feelings, like that were not my own, that were brought to me basically through the energy, like sadness or sorrow or anger or fear. Typically, that's somebody else's experiences that I'm experiencing. But I feel like
some people would say that that's a pretty revolutionary statement.
When you get it, when you feel it, and you feel how it travels through your body, it's literally plugging into your brain. And what you're feeling is, when it goes through your temples like that, that's where your temporal lobes are, and that controls a lot of your brain activity and a lot of your memories and things of that nature. And I feel like your visual cortex is back there in the back of your head too. So I feel like a lot of times when people see things, what they're seeing is not a physical entity, but they're actually seeing a hallucination induced by the energy itself kind of plugging into you. I feel that the energy itself carries with it certain brainwaves, patterns, electrochemical energy from people that it either came from or came in contact with, and in a sense can carry with it the DNA of somebody's brain, their memories, their ideas, their beliefs, their fears, their, life flashing before their eyes, if you will. And then when it plugs into you, you feel what they feel. You feel that dread. You feel that horror of them about to get murdered or burn alive in a fire. I feel when I'm in a place that had a fire, even if I don't know there was a fire there, I'll get this like wavy sort of feeling, if that makes sense, like a pulsing, like a
throughout your body, or just
it's like, because it's like you get the energy, and then you also get this, like, if I could put it to a sound, it would be like blah, 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 like this. You feel like wave after wave after wave hitting you, and I, then I'll ask somebody like, "Hey, was there a fire here or whatever?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, there was a fire here." And sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, there was a fire, but nobody died in the fire." But I'm actually feeling like I can experience a fire. I can like feel a fire even if nobody died in it. That there was a fire.
That opens up a lot of questions.
And that's something like with you too, which once you knew, you felt it and you learned, what it was, how you learned to use it.
I never, the thing is that this is all speculative. I still don't know that's what it really is, but I know that I can feel stuff, and I can usually tell if the haunting is caused by, there's a few different types of hauntings I can explain. There's the obvious one, there was a murder or some kind of death, and that's always like a really heavy feeling, and you can tell, and you get the fear and the sorrow and the sadness and all that. There's the what I call kind of a collective haunting. That's of what I believe to be just kind of a collective consciousness of living people in places where people gather. Bars,
theaters,
restaurants, theaters. Specifically in theater, almost every theater is haunted in some way. And it's not necessarily like, oh, there's an usher that roams the aisles at night. It's just experiencing all the energy that people have experienced in that building of watching a movie and or a show or having emotional, visceral reactions to things that they're seeing. And that's kind of just carried in the room, and the energy that's in the room. And you can just kind of feel it all around you. And it's not the type of haunting where you can walk in and pinpoint specific spots and be like, oh, this spot is where something happened, and this spot is where something happened. It's just kind of free-flowing throughout the room.
With that type of feeling, too, it's something you have to just go over a bunch of times and experience. Like just going in a crowded areas, knowing the difference between, and kind of just where you said you feel like that energy and wavy, you could experience, was there a fire here? Well, actually there was. Yeah. That's something, so it kind of is learned.
Yeah.
In a way, it's not that you didn't have it, but you just had to learn what that
right, you kind of learn to interpret it. I mean, there's still, I'll get it all the time in certain places and sometimes don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. But the other type I feel is kind of the same as the theater, but I've walked through funeral homes. Like I've actually had permission to walk through funeral homes before. And in the room where they do the wakes or whatever, like I'll walk through and like huge, like very heavy sensation of dread and sorrow and whatever. And by the time I get to the end of the room, I'm tearing up and my eyes are watering. And what I'm feeling is all the sadness and sorrow of people that experience the loss of their loved ones in that room. I'm not experiencing dead people. And
I remember last time. Yeah, you mentioned that before.
So and for instance, like my hauntings, you're still not talking about a ghost as most people consider them.
No, like my friend's antique shop, which hopefully we'll get to investigate. When I go in there, you can feel in a specific room that something bad happened there, like in that one room. And it's kind of, you can kind of feel it throughout other parts of the place too. But in that one room, you're like, okay, something very bad happened in this room to a person. Somebody died in this room. Somebody, something happened in this room. It's kind of like, you ever like go over to a couple's house, like a friend's house for dinner or whatever, and you can tell they were just fighting like 2 minutes before you walked in the room?
People do it at our house all the time.
Yeah. Like, and you just kind of like walk in and you're like, do you want me to go outside for a while? Or, and we can be in tune with that stuff. But like I said, this is all speculative, and I don't really know what it is, but I can only speak to my experiences. And the thing is that I've been doing this for, 18 years or 17 years or whatever it is, and I hear people tell stories all the time. Joe, I'll hear you tell stories. Jay, I'll hear you tell stories about your daughter experiencing things, or you experiencing things in the cemetery by your house, or, the result of that. And, I have to be like, that sounds like they're just making that up. Like, it doesn't sound real to me. Like, I didn't experience it, so how do I know they're not bullshitting? And that's the way I feel whenever somebody tells me. Like, I'll tell people a crazy story of stuff that happened to me, but I don't expect them to believe me. And that's why I always say, like, if you don't believe me, come out with me, or go out for yourself and find out, because I don't expect anyone to believe any of the shit that comes out of my mouth, because I sound just as crazy as the next person.
Right. See, like with me, I'm really skeptical too. I personally, it's like if I don't really see it myself, I don't believe it. I have a lot of friends, parents, people I know that are professional psychics, where police will come over their house, they'll bring a skull, and they'll ask if what they feel with this, and they'll tell them they'll actually find, a murderer suspects. I don't know if I really completely even believe that. The weird thing with Dave is, from what I feel, he's the only other person that I know, at least that I've talked to, that feels the same way when we're experiencing this.
So what do you
think that we should kiss on the mouth?
Again, when you think of it, what do you...
Walks on the beach.
Edit that out. When you are in the thick of it, Joe, what are you feeling? How is your body reacting?
Personally,
how could you tell when it's around?
It's pretty much how Dave explained it. I think it's... If you have it, you have it. But... you learn to feel it even more through experiences. I mean, because you go to a haunted place, or you go just an area, you start feeling it in your back. your hair standing up a little bit, get like uneasy in the stomach. To most people, and your eyes water. Most people, if they felt it, they just feel sick to their stomach. Oh, I hate this. I don't like this feeling. It would be a bad feeling to them. Where bad.
One thing I forgot to mention is I'm hoping one day we can get like a portable EKG to go out, because my blood pressure changes when I feel it. My hands will get all red. Like, like when you've been sitting on your hand for a while and it turns all red, and it's like kind of like that textured look to it. Like there's like red and white, and like that'll happen to my hands, and you can see all my veins will pop out, like on my arms.
So if any listeners have a portable EKG meter,
I'm sure
we could use.
I'm sure we can get you like with Fitbits and all that stuff.
Really
you could probably get something. Like that.
Fitbits, sure. That's a really interesting story. But Joe, I'm curious if you can continue.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, your back kind of gets tight. You feel just kind of tense up.
Have you ever been electrocuted? Have you ever gotten electrocuted? Like
Actually, I have.
Would you say that comes close?
No, it's completely different.
I always equated
it to an electric shock. That's when I
equate it to static electricity. Like,
but
like you feel like when you feel like
you get short of breath, your eyes water, your joints get weak.
The old
you
feel in your stomach.
The old tube TVs after you shut them off, you can kind of feel the fuzziness. That's how I always describe it.
That's a good way to put it.
I can picture that completely. Yeah,
but also too. It's kind of actually like almost you described like it's like a static like electricity kind of feel where your body kind of tenses up a little bit. You feel it in your stomach. Your hairs are standing up. Eyes they're just kind of like they're teary, like a little
welling
burning.
up.
But it's almost like your body just got tuned to, okay, now you can kind of really feel, is this good? Is this bad? Is it just, am I feeling remorse because everyone that's sitting in this funeral home it's a learned thing from going in and out of all these different places, and eventually that difference.
Imagine you're sitting at a restaurant and you feel two hands on your shoulders of somebody like, and you don't, like, there's that instant where you're like, is this my uncle saying hello to me? Is this a friend? Is this somebody I know? Or is this a crazy person about to stab me in the ear with a fork? And that's kind of like that instant that you get it, you're like, is this going to be a good one? Is this going to be a bad one?
There you go.
No, exactly. Because all of a sudden, it's almost like your body just gets tuned, and you're like, okay.
You kind of brace yourself.
You
brace yourself.
As that's happening, and you sit and you're like, okay, something's here. Exactly, here it comes.
So when you're going up the hill on the roller coaster and you're right about to hit the apex, and you kind of like tense up and like, oh, this is gonna. I'm getting ready for it.
No, that's a really good way to explain it. And that's exactly what it is. And all of a sudden, it could be like, just a little something. Otherwise, get the fuck out of here now. Whatever is, you guys do not want to experience anything evil.
The thing is, whenever I get like those really strong ones, so those like really strong angry ones, like I don't leave. I stay because I want to experience everything. I want to know what it is.
I hate
like the scarier it is, and the more creeped out I am.
Do you ultimately feel like you'll be fine no matter what?
Yeah, because I feel like it can't really do anything to me.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like I'm probably going to be the first person ripped like limb from limb by a Sasquatch.
I mean, I'm not afraid of it hurting me. It's just the thing that gets to me is I think you could bring it back.
Well, I think what it is you're a huge pussy. I think that's what it is.
Well, maybe a little bit. I just hate waking up in the middle of the night and something's standing above me.
It's that thing when you sometimes wake up, and I get this, and I don't know if it's related to this at all. Sometimes I would wake up, and I'm up at all hours, and I would just hear the strangest noise, and I do think that someone's broken in and doing something, and I'm like grabbing, bat, whatever. And I would sneak up and make sure, open every door, turn on every light. I'm not scared of anything supernatural. Although now I think back on it, maybe I should have.
Is there anything ever there?
No, nothing's ever there. But I've had birds trapped in my basement or a rat. I had to kill a rat before. So it could have been just an animal. But it just caught me at the right time where it looks like someone closed the door, someone's trying to sneak, or someone opened a drawer. Just enough where always think thief. I don't think anything else. Or even animal.
Yeah, have you ever heard Kumail Nanjiani, who's a comedian that,
love that guy.
worked with me? Have you ever heard his bit about living in the haunted house?
No.
Should check it out.
I listen to his
he tells a joke about he was living in it was like some off-campus apartment or something like that, and he had a bunch of roommates. And one of the girls that lived there, she's like, we always hear footsteps upstairs, like in the attic. And one day he went up there to he had a colander on his head, because it was one of those ones you have to go up the ladder and put your head through a trapdoor, and he has this image of a hobo hitting him with an axe in the head or something like that. So he put a colander on his head and goes up there with a butcher knife. He's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, just oh, there's a hobo, stab, 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 stab. But he talks about this real event that happened to him. You can tell it's a real story. And he talks about a haunting in a very, funny and casual way. But he said after that day when he went up there and looked around, and they never heard the sounds again. So.
Well, something I want to bring up, though, too, is, when it's really bad, when it's a get the fuck out of here now feeling, evil, I hate it. Me, personally, when I get strong feelings like that, if I stay around, number one, I feel like I'm even more drained, and number two, I feel like sometimes I bring things back to my house.
I feel like I might have haunted my mom's old house.
I remember that.
Yeah,
same
we called
thing
him
my parents'
Frank.
house.
That's right. I remember.
And Frank would steal
socks, right?
Steal socks.
Yes, I remember that.
It was so.
Tell a story about Frank.
So
and also too is I think which happened to me before too. They can get you sick.
Well, this is the thing. Is I was out with my friend Steve. You remember Steve that lived with me, and we were out at this. It was supposed to be a haunted farmhouse in the middle of nowhere or whatever. And we went out there, and I did feel something, and I'm like, okay, whatever you are, I want you to come back with me. Come with me. Attach yourself to me. Come with me. Come back to my house.
Not smart.
So
don't try this at home.
I really did the whole ride home. I felt like it was in me. It was.
So what were you feeling? What were you feeling?
It was it was like
you're away from the supposed haunted location. You're in a car. You're driving home, but yet you're still feeling this. What?
It's like a prolonged trace energy feeling. And I almost felt like it was. I felt like it was in me, so
Which
I'm
is
like,
weird
okay,
'cause you invited it,
right? And I'm like, okay, if this thing is really in me right now, and I might have just been psyching myself out. I don't know if it was really in me, but I'm like, okay, if this thing is in me right now, we're gonna and if it can experience anything through me, who knows where it came from or how long it's been out there or whatever. We're gonna go get some ice cream, so it can experience ice cream. So we went out for ice cream. With the specific intent, if there's any way that it can experience ice cream through me.
Very nice service you're doing for Frank.
I would smoke pot.
Hopefully
Maybe
it was Ben and Jerry's.
So we went back to my house, and I'm like, okay, this is where you can live now. You can live here. And I walked into the basement. I'm like, okay, you can get out of me now. Leave here. You can stay here. And I can't say that I felt anything leave my body or anything, but from that point on, there was always weird stuff going on in the basement. Well, there was a guy that died right out in front of the house. My mom's
car accident, right?
No. My mom's house was right at the end of a T intersection, so you could literally drive straight down the street, and if you didn't turn, you'd drive right into her house, which somebody actually eventually did.
Was that in the middle of the T, so to speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, once you first moved in, I'm like, Mom, eventually somebody's going to drive into your house. And sure enough, somebody did eventually drive into her house.
I'm sorry. So sorry about that still.
Nobody was home. It was all right. Or actually, I think they were home, but nobody was in that room or whatever. Anyways, so there was, all this commotion outside one day. I look outside, and there was a car that had come down the T intersection and just kind of coasted into a fire hydrant, kind of knocked over a sign a little bit. And, the police were there and stuff, and it looked like somebody just, missed their turn or whatever. So, the next day, this woman knocked on the door, and she's like, did you see the accident that happened out here yesterday? And I'm like, yeah, there was somebody, hit the fire hydrant out here. She's like, yeah, that was my dad. And I'm like, oh, is he okay? She's like, no, he's dead. He had a heart attack and died.
Oh.
So that's why he crashed the car, because he literally died while he was driving. And I'm not exactly sure what the timeline is, along with me supposedly bringing the thing back to my house, but it was around the same time, so who knows. At any rate, so Frank was what I deemed to be something I brought into the house, or who knows, maybe I manifested it myself. But
Or Frank wanted a friend.
maybe.
Or it was the guy who died in the car accident.
But there was a time where, and this happened a few times. It was never anything very severe. It was dish towels in the kitchen, and it was because the dish towels would be on like the handle of the stove, and you'd like straighten them all out and like turn around to like do something. You turn back around, they'd be all messed up again. I experienced that, and my mother experienced that without us telling each other about it. And then in the the laundry room was in the basement, and I would go into the laundry room to do my laundry, whatever. And I that particular day I'd been out in the woods or something like that, so I like wanted to wash my clothes. So I just threw in one change of clothes. It was like 2 socks, boxers, pants, shirt. Threw them in there. I think maybe I need them for work the next day or whatever. And so I go to put the stuff in the dryer and dry it. Come downstairs to go get my stuff out of the dryer. And I'm like, okay, shirt, pants, boxers, sock. Where's the other sock? I look in the washing machine, no sock.
Are you sure it wasn't like No Sock November?
I'm pretty sure I put that sock in the dryer. And then something had occurred to me as it was just when we had moved into that house, so there was no furniture in the rest of the basement at all. It was carpeted. And I had recalled seeing something in the middle of the floor in the basement while I was coming downstairs to do when I was coming downstairs to get my stuff out of the dryer. And it didn't immediately connect with me. I'm like, that's weird that there's something in the middle of the floor over there, because nobody's staying in that room over there, and there would be no reason for there to be something on the floor there. And I'm pretty sure I'm the only one home right now. So I'm looking for my sock, and I'm like, if that's my sock in the middle of the floor over there, in a spot that I didn't walk to or bring my clothes anywhere near, that's going to be really weird. So I walk over, and it's my sock, and it's still wet.
Oh, man.
So
Wow.
I
could have at least dried it for you.
don't know what that was all about.
Whatever happened to Frank?
But a few months later, my mom had almost exactly the identical situation where she called me, and she's like, there's something really weird going on with the laundry. I'm like, does it have something to do with a sock? And she's like, yeah, it does. It was in the middle of the floor, like on the other side of the room. And I'm like,
Wow.
Same thing that happened to me.
It's pretty blatant. It's innocuous, but it's still...
And it's one of those things that, like, a lot of hauntings are like that, where like stuff like that'll happen, and you're like, am I just making a mountain? Like it, there's got to be some rational explanation for it. Maybe I walked over there with the laundry basket and forgot that I tried. Like, who knows? Like,
Well, that's the human nature to try to rationalize something that's so irrational,
yeah.
to bring sense to this chaos.
Do you think it would be okay if I ended the show with like a mind-boggling theory that will make everyone question their reality for the rest of their lives?
I saw The Matrix.
I'm just going to put this out there as like the main crux of the theory that I work off of is that we all know energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? That's a thing we all agree on.
Absolutely.
And I would go so far as to say that every single thing that exists now, you, me, these computers in front of us, the wires and the table and everything, our clothes that we're wearing, all came from something else, right?
Yeah.
Everything had to come from somewhere.
Right.
We came from our parents came from their parents, so on and so forth. It's the age-old which came first, the chicken or the egg. There's no answer to that question, because everything in nature is cyclical, and everything, no matter what it is part of nature. We're all part of nature. Everything is part. Even synthetic plastic and stuff is part of nature. Everything that exists, everything that will exist, all came from what is. There's no. What I'm trying to say is the whole concept of beginning, the whole concept of end, the whole concept of creation itself is a lie. It's a falsehood that we have come to believe that is the truth. But even if you consider life and death, beginning and end, that's not true, because you're born from somebody else who's born from somebody else who's born from somebody else. And when you die, your body breaks back down into the earth to become the plants that feeds the animals, that becomes part of the earth again. Sure. And everything is in a cycle, everything. So anything you look at goes back to something else. So whether you believe in creationism or the Big Bang Theory, where did that entity that created the universe come from? It had to be created by something, right? If creation is a thing. And even if you believe in the Big Bang Theory, well, where did that particle that exploded to become the universe come from? Probably from another universe that collapsed on itself, which brings you right back to the chicken and the egg thing, which is to say that nothing ever was created. Everything that exists already was and comes from what already is.
So which came first, the molecule of the universe? The
universe itself is infinite in all aspects. It never was created. It will never be destroyed. It will only change shape and change form. And, there's no... time as we experience it, the whole concept of creation, beginning and end, is not real. It's all fake. And even scientists will say, and there's, in recent years, there's scientists that are more along the lines of what I'm saying and admitting that there is no such thing as a beginning of the universe. That everything just always, it's so hard for us to imagine, but the universe just always existed. Everything just always existed, and everything that exists now and will exist in the future comes from what was before it. And nothing ever spawned from nothing.
So how does that relate, in closing, how does that relate to the paranormal and some of these energies that we experience that do seem to be intelligent, reactive,
it seems like we're more like
with us?
It seems like we're opening the minds a bit more so we can start defining or giving our characterizations.
I want people to stop thinking of, I want to kind of erase the whole...
Right, yeah, exactly.
The whole debate about religion and creation and all. I just want to completely eliminate that from the picture and look at this as a wholly scientific.
This is a palate cleanser episode, basically. Yeah. This is a ginger between sushi.
Yeah. This could be just a different dimension.
Sushi,
Maybe that's the.
There's the multiverse theory, and
if you're bored, just sit on the toilet. Research string theory.
Okay, well, think of it this way: is what I just said is like the universe is infinite. And goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, forever.
And this is all we know right here.
But this is the thing, is if what I'm saying is true and everything truly is infinite, that means that time will never end. And we will go on for trillions and trillions and billions of years. And right now, somewhere else in the universe, at some point in time, there is an identical Dave, Jay, Oscar, and Joe in an identical office, in identical Earth, and on an identical solar system, having an identical conversation, because in infinity, every single possibility that could possibly exist has to repeat itself at some point.
Yep.
Which is to say that if that is true, it is possible in some way that some of those realities can kind of mix together, or there could be interdimensional or multiverses or whatever. But we like to think of ourselves as this magical planet in the middle of this cold vastness of space,
in the middle of the desert,
and there is nothing else out there.
Water.
But the reality is there are thousands and probably millions of other planets exactly like ours out there. And everyone likes to say, oh, well, you need water to be, for the, that's what creates life is water. If there's water, there could be life. Well, yeah, on our planet, but if other organisms evolved on a planet with no water, they wouldn't need water. They might not even need carbon. There might not even be carbon-based life forms. There might not even be life forms that are organic. We can't base everything that we know on what we see here. It would be like if you based everything you know about wildlife on on what you find in your backyard. Like, well, lions can't exist because there's only worms in my backyard.
Right.
So how do we know there's even lions out there? So we really have to, I guess basically what I'm trying to say is like open your mind and try to think of things differently than you normally would. Not only think outside of the box, but think outside of the realm of Earth.
And I think that's something, in closing, I really think that's something that SOS has been doing and propagating since the very beginning, which is what made us so unique from every other group out there doing the same thing.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it for our show for this week. Stay tuned for what we are talking about next time in 2 weeks. Until then, you can follow this very show on Twitter at ChicagoGhost.com. All one word and plural with the ghost, Chicago Ghost, at Chicago Ghost, not ChicagoGhost.com. Sorry. Find me personally on Twitter for spooky movie chatter, if you will, at Armin Filmmaker. That's Filmmaker with ARMEN, as well as film podcast called Everything is Opinionated on iTunes. Yeah, next time in 2 weeks, we'll talk about Morseland Music Room.
That was our second location we ever investigated.
Second location, that's
Yeah,
right.
and
Room
hopefully all the
in
memories
Rogers
that
Park.
come from that, right?
Also, I think we should change the website from SOS dash, what is it? SOS Radio? SOS-radio.com
Yes.
to SOS radio.com.
Always remember,
That's
submissions
Morse
you can
code
send
for
at
SOS.
SOS-radio.com, not all of that.
Email submissions at
Right, email that.
sos-radio.com.
Yeah. Chicago area code, 872-5229-0SOS, which is 0767. If you want to send us feedback or suggestions or any stories you might have of your own, because everyone has a story out there.
Yeah.
Until then, I am Oscar Spector.
I'm Dave Black.
I'm Joe Erie.
And I am Jason Knight. As always, kind listeners, keep your head up, eyes open, and question everything.
You want to save your soul from hell, riding on our range. Cowboy, change your ways today. Oh, with us you will ride. Rise at the devil's herd.
You're the host.
No, yeah, it's perfect. I introduce it. I mean, I make them say their names in my show, but yeah, I do the whole intro myself too.
Okay.
I just think it sounds a little bit more professional, rather than scattered.
The worst part about mine is that I have to write a different intro every show, like an idiot. Like I wrote myself into that corner. All right, everyone ready? 5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, and
So that's gonna do the same thing with
that's
the.
what's giving me the ins
Yep.
and outs
Yep.
on the podcast.
The mic is your friend.
So that is one thing we
It is the cock that you want.
it is-
Just imagine it's your uncle's stick.
Yeah,
In your mouth.
exactly. You stole the words out of stole the cock out of his
recording.
mouth, really.
Just in case.
So I'm gonna stop.
Nothing ever
do it
happened.
again.
So that is one thing we did notice on the podcast is that anytime any of us watch the chair coughing with some big coughs from
No,
the-
coughing
I
is natural. It's gonna happen no matter
That's
what. we do.
okay.
Yeah, it's always gonna
but
happen.
from looking away from the mics, you hear
You
it
should see me
going
sometimes. I'm like,
in and out on the podcast. So it's
It's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. And people expect that. People expect ambulances sometimes too. It's not a big
What
deal.
about gagging? All right.
Well, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. All right, are you ready again? 5, 4, 3, 2.
hello everybody. Thank you for listening to the SOS-radio.com podcast. My name is Jason Knight, president and founder of Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies, and your host into the unknown at the SOS. Can we start?
No, why? All I need
hard.
is
What are
like
you,
2
fucking
seconds.
Dom DeLuise?
Totally lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was going to say.
Guys, if I had the outtakes for the first time I did this, you should see that. Like everything. What the fuck are we?
Why did I just do that?
It's so
And I
weird.
still looked away. I got to
Yeah.
be on the dick, on the cock. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just start whenever, man.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the SOS-radio.com podcast. I'm your host, Jason Knight, president and founder of Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies, and host of the SOS-radio.com podcast.
Oh, no.
What? I'm so tired. Oh, God.
Just start after that part of the intro. I already got that first part. Sorry, I was holding a laughter the whole time.
Yeah, we'll do it serious right now.
Yeah.
You're going to nail it right now.
Dave's on his phone.
I have some emails, actually.
All right.
Dave could care less.
Well, he's done the stage thing. He's like this.
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
This is nothing for him.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me and us.
Dude, I'm not doing it.
Shit. Hey, are these good to eat or no? Am I going to get sick?
As long as you don't crunch them on the thing, it's fine.
Yeah, you're going to be sucking on shit. Crunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is this so hard?
I don't know, but you're making me laugh. It's great. I feel it's great because people are laughing at me when I try to do it again. Like, God damn this fucking show.
Outtakes. We got outtakes.
Yeah, and this is outtake right here. This is perfect. This never happens again, hopefully.